If you don't find our son in 3 days, I will divorce you, she screamed, her voice trembling with fury. The poor wife stood frozen in the pouring rain, eyes pleading. Please, I'm trying. Get out. The door slammed shut, leaving her shivering, broken, and alone in the storm. This introduction has a heartfelt and emotional tone, which is great for engaging your audience. However, I'd refine it slightly for clarity and flow while keeping the warmth intact. Here's a smoother version. Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome to Mr. Peter's Stories. I feel a bit ashamed after Mr. Peter's comeback because many of you were eagerly waiting for him, and then suddenly, I appeared instead. If that disappointed you, please forgive me. The truth is, Mr. Peter can't read twice a day, and I just want to keep bringing you the stories you love. On this beautiful Sunday, I offer a heartfelt prayer for my most powerful and loving family. May your hearts be filled with peace, joy, and endless blessings. Now, tell me, how did you feel about yesterday's story, where a millionaire lost his wife and a beautiful girl lost her baby on the same day? I promised you today's story would be even better, so don't leave halfway. Stay with me till the very end. Just be honest with me. Are you satisfied with me, or should I step aside? Now, let's begin with love. Chapter 1. Silent Tears. The morning sun filtered through thin curtains, casting a pale light across Dream Kali's delicate features as she quietly prepared breakfast in the spacious but cold kitchen. At 22, her beauty was undeniable. Warm brown eyes that seemed to hold both sadness and hope, long ebony hair that cascaded down her back, and a grace that seemed almost out of place in the tension-filled home. The rice is overcooked again, her husband Vikram said without looking up from his newspaper. His voice held no anger, only indifference, which somehow cut deeper than rage ever could. I'm sorry, Dream Kali replied softly, though they both knew it wasn't true. The rice was perfectly cooked, as it always was. This daily ritual of criticism had begun the day after their arranged marriage 3 years ago and had never ceased. She had come to this marriage with dreams of partnership and respect, if not love. Her family had assured her that Vikram, from a respected family with considerable wealth, would make a good husband. What they hadn't told her, or perhaps hadn't known, was that Vikram had agreed to the marriage only to please his dying father and secure a business merger with her family's company. From the bedroom down the hall came a soft cooing sound that immediately transformed Dream Kali's expression. The subtle tension in her shoulders released, and a genuine smile curved her lips. Without a word to Vikram, she moved toward the sound, entering a nursery painted in gentle blues and yellows that she had decorated herself, against her husband's protests about the unnecessary expense. "Good morning, my little sunshine," she whispered, leaning over the crib where 10-month-old Joshua looked up at her with eyes that mirrored her own. His tiny hands reached up, grasping for her, and she lifted him into her arms, inhaling the sweet scent of his baby skin. Joshua had been unexpected but instantly cherished. During her pregnancy, Dream Kali had hoped the child might soften Vikram's heart, might create a bridge between them. Instead, he had been absent for the birth, claiming an important business meeting couldn't be rescheduled. When he finally saw his son 3 days later, his only comment had been, "He's small, isn't he?" before returning to his office. "Let me tell you a story about a brave little prince," Dream Kali said to Joshua as she changed his diaper and dressed him in a blue romper. He lived in a castle with high walls, but one day he would find his way to a kingdom where everyone knew how special he truly was. It was the same story her mother had told her as a child, but she'd adapted it for her son, weaving in her hopes for his future, a future where he would be valued, where his gentle heart would be seen as strength rather than weakness. After dressing Joshua, Dream Kali settled into the rocking chair by the window, cradling him close as she began to sing the lullaby her grandmother had taught her, passed down through generations in her family. Sleep, my child, beneath the stars. Angels watch from near and far. Until the morning sun appears, I'll keep you safe and dry your tears. Her voice, though soft, carried a richness that seemed to soothe not only Joshua, but herself as well. In these moments, the loneliness of her marriage faded, replaced by a love so powerful it sometimes overwhelmed her. From the doorway, Vikram watched silently, his expression unreadable. For a brief moment, something akin to longing flickered in his eyes before he turned away, the sound of the front door closing. Moments later, the only indication he had been there at all. Dream Kali closed her eyes, a single tear escaping down her cheek. Not for herself. She had stopped crying for herself long ago, but for Joshua, who deserved a father's love as much as a mother's. The day passed as most days did. Dream Kali tended to the house, played with Joshua, prepared meals that Vikram barely acknowledged, and worked on small embroidery pieces that she sold at a local shop. Her one connection to the outside world, and the only money that was truly hers. That evening, as darkness fell, she bathed Joshua in the small tub, laughing as he splashed water everywhere, his giggles filling the bathroom with joy. She wrapped him in a towel, kissing his damp curls. "Tomorrow is a special day," she whispered to him. "My little prince will be 1 year old." She had been planning his birthday celebration for weeks, saving her embroidery money to buy a small cake and a stuffed elephant she'd seen Joshua admiring in a shop window when they walked past. Her friend Alani had suggested they take Joshua to a children's movie that was playing at the local cinema. A rare treat that Dream Kali had almost been afraid to hope for. When she mentioned the birthday plans to Vikram over dinner, he barely looked up from his plate. "I'll be in Mumbai tomorrow. Business meeting," he said flatly. Dream Kali nodded, having expected nothing else. "How long will you be gone?" 3 days, maybe 4. He stood, placing his barely touched plate in the sink. "Don't wait up. I have work to finish." After he disappeared into his study, Dream Kali cleared the table, her movements mechanical. The silent tears that gave the day its name slipped down her cheeks unchecked as she washed the dishes, dried them, and put them away. Later, in Joshua's room, she held him close, rocking gently as she sang their special lullaby one more time. "Tomorrow will be wonderful," she promised him, and herself. "Just you and me and Alani. We'll celebrate how perfect you are, my love." She kissed his forehead as his eyes grew heavy with sleep, wondering not for the first time what it would be like to be truly loved by someone who chose her, who saw her, not as an obligation or a convenience, but as essential to their happiness. As she placed Joshua in his crib, she whispered, "Sweet dreams, my little one. No matter what happens in this life, never forget how deeply you are loved." In the hallway mirror, Dream Kali caught a glimpse of herself, young, beautiful, but with eyes that had grown old before their time. She straightened her shoulders and wiped away the last of her tears. For Joshua, she would be strong. For Joshua, she would find joy in each day, even as her heart quietly broke in the silence of her marriage. Tomorrow would be better. Tomorrow would be Joshua's day. And for a few precious hours, she would allow herself to forget everything else. Chapter 2. The night everything changed. The morning of Joshua's first birthday dawned bright and clear. Dream Kali woke early, her heart lighter than it had been in months. Vikram had already left for Mumbai, his suitcase gone from the hallway, which meant the house was theirs alone. No critical glances, no heavy silences, just her and Joshua and the celebration she had planned. "Happy birthday, my little prince," she whispered as she lifted her son from his crib. Joshua smiled up at her, his tiny hands reaching for her face in what had become their morning ritual. "Today is your special day." She dressed him in the new outfit she had saved for, a light blue shirt with tiny elephants embroidered on the collar, work she had done herself during the quiet hours after Joshua slept. The matching shorts made him look older somehow, less a baby and more a little boy. At 10 o'clock, the doorbell chimed. Dream Kali opened it to find Alani, her best friend since childhood, standing there with a small wrapped package and a smile that could light up the darkest room. "There's the birthday boy," Alani exclaimed, scooping Joshua into her arms and covering his cheeks with kisses until he giggled. "1 year old today. I can hardly believe it." Unlike most of Dream Kali's friends who had slowly disappeared after her marriage to Vikram, Alani had remained steadfast. She saw the reality of Dream Kali's life and offered support without judgment, a kindness for which Dream Kali was endlessly grateful. Dream Kali said, leading the way, "The cake is in the kitchen. I thought we could have a small celebration here before the movie." The cake was simple but beautiful, vanilla with buttercream frosting and a single blue candle in the center. Dream Kali had risen before dawn to bake it, wanting everything to be perfect for Joshua's first birthday. They sang to him, Dream Kali's melodic voice blending with Alani's enthusiastic, if slightly off-key rendition of Happy Birthday. Joshua watched the candle with fascination, his eyes wide at the dancing flame. "Make a wish for him," Alani suggested, and Dream Kali closed her eyes briefly before blowing out the candle. "I wish for him to know love, real love, in all its forms throughout his life, the kind I never found." They cut the cake, helping Joshua smash a tiny piece between his fingers before stuffing it into his mouth, frosting smearing across his cheeks as he laughed in delight. Dream Kali captured the moment with her camera, wanting to preserve every second of this perfect day. "We should get going if we want to make the 2 o'clock showing," Alani said, checking her watch. "The theater is on the other side of town." Dream Kali nodded, gathering Joshua's diaper bag and making sure she had everything they might need. Extra clothes, diapers, his favorite toy, and a small bottle of juice. The movie was a children's animation about talking animals, something colorful and cheerful that she hoped would captivate Joshua. It was his first trip to a cinema, another milestone to celebrate. The theater was cool and dark, a welcome respite from the afternoon heat. They chose seats near the back where they could easily slip out if Joshua became fussy. To Dream Kali's delight, he seemed entranced by the giant screen, his eyes fixed on the dancing colors and characters while he nestled contentedly in her lap. 30 minutes into the film, however, Joshua began to squirm, his content expression giving way to the beginning of a frown that Dream Kali recognized all too well. "I think he's getting restless," she whispered to Alani. "Maybe I should take him to the lobby for a bit." "Let me," Alani offered, already reaching for Joshua. "You've been looking forward to this movie. Enjoy it for a few minutes while I walk him around. The fresh air might help settle him." Dream Kali hesitated, reluctant to be separated from Joshua even briefly on his birthday. But Alani was right. She had been eager to see this film, one of the few small pleasures she allowed herself. "There's a small park just across the street," Alani suggested. "I'll take him there for some sunshine, and we'll be back before you know it. He'll probably fall asleep in the stroller." "Are you sure?" Dream Kali asked, even as she handed Joshua over. "Positive. You deserve a little break." "We won't be gone long." Alani settled Joshua in his stroller, tucking his favorite blanket around him. "Just text if you need us to come back sooner." With a grateful smile, Dream Kali watched them go, then turned her attention back to the screen, allowing herself to be drawn into the story. It felt strange to sit alone, without Joshua's warm weight in her arms. But she reminded herself that he was with Alani, who loved him almost as much as she did. 20 minutes later, Dream Kali's phone vibrated in her pocket. Expecting a text from Alani, she was surprised to see her sister Priya's name on the screen instead. A flutter of worry passed through her. Priya rarely called unless it was important. Slipping quietly from her seat, Dream Kaylee made her way to the lobby before answering. "Priya, is everything okay?" The sound of her sister's sobbing came through the line, causing Dream Kali's heart to clench with sudden fear. It's Mom," Priya managed through her tears. "She collapsed an hour ago. We're at the hospital. The doctors say it was a massive heart attack. Dream Kali, you need to come. She's asking for you." The world seemed to tilt beneath Dream Kali's feet, the bright lobby lights suddenly too harsh, the sounds around her fading to a distant buzz. Her mother, her gentle, loving mother who had been her only ally when everyone else had pushed her into the marriage with Vikram, was dying. "I'll come right away," Dream Kaylee promised, her voice sounding strange and distant to her own ears. "Which hospital?" After Priya gave her the details, Dream Kaylee ended the call and leaned against the wall, her mind racing as shock gave way to the urgent need to act. She needed to get to the hospital immediately. She needed to see her mother one last time. In her distress, she rushed from the theater, her thoughts consumed by the devastating news. It wasn't until she was halfway to the hospital, sitting in the back of a taxi with tears streaming down her face, that the horrible realization struck her. Joshua, Alani, the park. In her shock, she had forgotten to tell Alani where she was going. She had left without her son. Hands shaking, Dream Kaylee pulled out her phone to call Alani, only to find it dead. The battery completely drained. Panic surged through her as the taxi driver looked at her in the rearview mirror. "Miss, are you all right?" "I need to go back," she said urgently. "Please turn around. I need to go back to the cinema." But as the taxi made a U-turn, Dream Kali's phone lighted up with life for just a moment, long enough for her to see a final message from Priya. "Hurry. The doctors say she doesn't have long." Torn between her dying mother and her son, Dream Kaylee made a split-second decision that would haunt her forever. "Continue to the hospital," she told the driver, her voice breaking. "Alani will take care of Joshua until I can get back." Across town, in the small park near the theater, Alani sat on a bench, speaking anxiously into her phone. "Dream Kaylee, can you hear me? Where are you?" Only static answered her. The call had dropped, leaving her message incomplete. She looked down at Joshua, sleeping peacefully in his stroller, unaware that at this very moment, both women who loved him most were facing impossible choices. Alani glanced at her watch, worried. Dream Kali should have joined them by now. Something must have happened. Making a decision, she stood and began pushing the stroller back toward the theater, unaware that Dream Kaylee was now miles away, racing toward a different kind of heartbreak. In that moment, as twilight began to fall over the city, none of them, not Dream Kali, not Alani, not sleeping Joshua, could possibly know that this night would change everything, setting in motion events that would separate and reunite them in ways they could never imagine. Chapter 3. Two Broken Hearts. Noah Richard sat alone on a park bench, his tall frame hunched against the evening chill. At 34, he had achieved everything society deemed important. A thriving investment firm, a mansion overlooking the city, cars worth more than most people's homes. Tonight, none of it mattered. The divorce papers had been finalized that morning, ending his 5-year marriage to Caroline with clinical efficiency. No children to consider, only assets to divide. The prenuptial agreement had protected most of his wealth, but money had never been the issue between them. "You can't give me the one thing I want," Caroline had said during their last real conversation. "A child, a family. What's the point of all this success if we can't share it?" Her words had cut deeper than she knew. The diagnosis of his infertility 3 years into their marriage had devastated Noah, but Caroline's gradual withdrawal had been worse. The fertility treatments, the specialists, the hope that rose and fell with each failed attempt, All of it had hollowed out what had once been love, leaving only resentment in its place. Now, as darkness settled over the small neighborhood park, Noah found himself unable to return to his empty home. The silence there would be too loud, the space too vast for just one person. So he sat, watching the last families gather their children and belongings as the playground slowly emptied. He checked his watch. Nearly 9 o'clock. The park would be closing soon. With a heavy sigh, he stood, brushing invisible dust from his expensive suit pants. It was time to face the emptiness waiting for him. That's when he heard it, a sound so unexpected in the quiet park that at first he thought he'd imagined it. A baby's cry, soft but distressed, coming from somewhere nearby. Noah turned, scanning the growing shadows. The cry came again, more insistent this time. Following the sound, he moved toward a cluster of trees near the far edge of the park, where a children's carousel stood silent and still for the night. Behind it, partially hidden by shadows, sat a stroller. A blue blanket hung over one side, moving slightly with the evening breeze. The crying grew louder as Noah approached, a desperate sound that stirred something protective in him. "Hello," he called out, looking around for any sign of a parent. "Is anyone there?" Only silence answered him, save for the baby's continued cries. With cautious steps, Noah moved to the stroller and peered inside. A baby boy, no more than a year old, looked up at him with tear-filled eyes, his small face red from crying. "Hey there, little guy," Noah said softly, his voice automatically shifting to a gentler tone. "Where's your mom or dad?" He scanned the area again, calling out louder this time. "Hello? There's a baby here. Anyone missing a child?" The empty park offered no response. Checking his phone, Noah saw that it was now past the park's closing time. Whoever had left this child, whether by accident or design, was long gone. The baby's cries grew more distressed, tiny hands reaching up as if pleading to be held. Noah hesitated only briefly before carefully lifting the child from the stroller. "It's okay," he murmured, awkwardly adjusting the baby against his chest. "I've got you. We'll figure this out." To his surprise, the baby's cries began to subside as Noah held him, small fingers curling into the fabric of his suit jacket. The simple trust in that gesture tightened something in Noah's chest. Searching through the stroller, Noah found a diaper bag with basic supplies: diapers, wipes, a half-empty bottle, and a small stuffed elephant. But there was no identification, no note, nothing to indicate who this child belonged to or how he had ended up alone in a darkening park. "I need to get you to the police," Noah said, more to himself than to the baby who was now watching him with curious eyes. "They'll know what to do." Gathering the diaper bag and carefully maneuvering the stroller with his free hand, Noah made his way out of the park. His driver, Thomas, was waiting in the car as instructed, eyebrows rising in surprise at the sight of his employer approaching with an infant in his arms. "Sir?" Thomas questioned, opening the car door. "Change of plans," Noah said, sliding into the back seat while still cradling the baby. "We need to go to the nearest police station." As Thomas drove, Noah found himself studying the child's face. The boy had stopped crying completely now, seemingly content in the arms of a stranger. Dark curls framed a face with deep brown eyes that held a seriousness unusual for one so young. "What's your name, little one?" Noah asked softly, knowing he wouldn't get an answer. The baby simply reached up, tiny fingers touching Noah's face with innocent curiosity. At the police station, Officer Patel listened carefully as Noah explained how he had found the abandoned child. The baby sat on Noah's lap, unusually calm despite the bright lights and strange surroundings. "No identification at all?" Officer Patel asked, making notes. "Nothing," Noah confirmed. "Just the basics in the diaper bag. No name, no contact information." Officer Patel nodded grimly. Unfortunately, we've had similar cases, sometimes parents in desperate situations. He let the sentence trail off, his implication clear. But surely someone will report him missing, Noah insisted. A child this age, someone must be looking for him. We'll check missing persons reports, of course, Officer Patel assured him. And we'll post his information immediately. For now, though, we'll need to place him with emergency social services until we can locate his family. The thought of this small, trusting child being handed over to an overworked system stirred something protective in Noah. And if no one comes forward, foster care, most likely. Eventually, adoption, if parental rights are terminated. Noah looked down at the baby who had fallen asleep against his chest, one small hand still clutching his suit jacket. In the space of a few hours, this child had awakened feelings Noah had buried since his diagnosis. The grief of knowing he would never hold his own child, the emptiness Caroline had found so intolerable. What if I take him? The words left Noah's mouth before he could consider their implications. Temporarily, of course, just until you find his family. Officer Patel's eyebrows rose in surprise. Mr. Richard, that's highly irregular. There are procedures, background checks, home evaluations. I understand, Noah said quickly. But I have the resources to provide for him. A safe home, whatever he needs. Surely that's better than an emergency placement with strangers. The officer studied him for a long moment. May I ask why you're offering? Most people in your position would simply walk away, knowing they've done their civic duty. Noah considered the question, surprising himself with the honesty of his answer. Because when I found him, I felt like I was supposed to. Like maybe we found each other. After a long discussion, several phone calls to superiors, and Noah's promise to appear before a judge the following morning, Officer Patel agreed to a temporary emergency placement. The decision was influenced partly by Noah's obvious resources and partly by the unusual circumstances, the late hour, the baby's comfort with Noah, and the overwhelmed state of the city's emergency placements. He'll need a name for the paperwork, Officer Patel said as he filled out forms. At least until we know his real one. Noah looked down at the sleeping child in his arms. Joshua, he said softly, the name coming to him without thought. His name is Joshua. As Noah's driver pulled up to his mansion later that night, the reality of what he had done began to settle in. He had no crib, no baby food, no knowledge of how to care for an infant. Yet as he carried Joshua into his home, the emptiness that had greeted him every night since Caroline left seemed to recede. "Welcome home, Joshua," he whispered. "For however long you're here, this is your home too." Across the city, Dream Kali sat beside her mother's hospital bed, holding a frail hand that had once been strong enough to guide her through life's hardest moments. The machines that had been beeping steadily throughout the evening had fallen silent 2 hours ago. Her mother was gone. Priya had left to make arrangements, leaving Dream Kali alone with her grief and the growing horror of a realization that had come too late. In the shock and sorrow of her mother's final moments, Dream Kali had forgotten to call Alani. Her phone, now charged from a hospital outlet, showed 6 missed calls and a series of increasingly frantic texts. With trembling fingers, Dream Kali dialed Alani's number. It rang once, twice, before her friend's voice, tight with worry, answered. "Dream Kali, where are you? I've been trying to reach you for hours." "My mother," Dream Kali began, her voice breaking. "She died tonight. I had to come to the hospital. I'm so sorry I didn't call. Is Joshua okay? Is he with you?" The silence that followed stretched for an eternity, broken only by Alani's shaky breath. "Dream Kali, I thought you came to get him. I went back to the theater to find you, but you weren't there. I had to leave to help my sister with an emergency. I left a note on the stroller with my number, and I called the theater to tell them where Joshua was, in case you came looking. I thought you must have found him." The world stopped. Dream Kali's heart seemed to freeze in her chest as understanding dawned. You left him. Where? Where is my baby? In the small playground behind the carousel. It was just for a few minutes. I had to help my sister. I left the note. I called the theater. Dream Kali, I'm so sorry. I thought you knew. Dream Kali couldn't breathe. Her mother was dead. Her son was missing. In the space of a single night, she had lost everything that mattered. I'm calling the police, she said, her voice hollow with shock. Meet me at the park. Now. As she ended the call, Dream Kali sank to her knees beside her mother's bed, a prayer and a promise forming on her lips. I will find him, Mama. I swear to you, I will find my son. Chapter 4. Parallel Lives. 1 year could change everything. Noah Richard stood in the doorway of a nursery that had once been his home office, watching as Joshua slept peacefully in his crib. The temporary guardianship had become semi-permanent 6 months ago when the court had been unable to locate any relatives despite extensive searches. The police investigation had turned up frustratingly little. The security cameras in the park had been malfunctioning that night. The theater staff remembered a woman leaving in a hurry but couldn't provide a clear description. The note Alani claimed to have left on the stroller was never found, likely blown away by the evening breeze or removed by someone else. In the absence of answers, Joshua had become the center of Noah's world. Sir, Vincent, Noah's house manager, appeared silently beside him. The attorney is on the line regarding the guardianship extension. Noah nodded, closing Joshua's door quietly. I'll take it in my study. The large room that now served as Noah's office was one of the few spaces in the mansion that hadn't been child-proofed. Photographs of Joshua lined the bookshelves. Joshua's first steps, his first birthday celebrated 2 months ago, ordinary moments that Noah had once thought he'd never experience. Mr. Harrington, Noah greeted his attorney through the speakerphone. What news? The judge is amenable to extending the guardianship for another year, the lawyer explained. Your financial resources and the care you've provided have been exemplary. However, I should warn you, if the biological parents or other relatives were to come forward with proof of relation, the court would likely favor reunification. I understand, Noah replied, his eyes drawn to a photograph of Joshua laughing as he splashed in a kiddie pool. Has there been any progress in the search? None, Mr. Harrington confirmed. It's as if this child appeared out of nowhere. After ending the call, Noah returned to Joshua's nursery. The toddler was now awake, standing in his crib and brightening at the sight of Noah. "Dada!" Joshua called, reaching out his arms to be picked up. The first time Joshua had called him that, Noah had felt both joy and guilt. Somewhere he believed there was a father missing this little boy. But as days turned to weeks and weeks to months, Noah had allowed himself to hope that perhaps Joshua had been meant to find him that night in the park. "Good morning, little man," Noah said, lifting Joshua into his arms. "Ready for our special ritual." Every morning, Noah showed Joshua a small photo album he had created, not filled with pictures of Joshua's early life, those didn't exist in Noah's possession, but with symbols and pictures meant to keep some connection to the unknown past. "These are angels watching over you," Noah would say, pointing to the stars in one picture. "And somewhere, there might be people who love you very much. Until we find them, you have me." It was the difficult balance Noah tried to maintain, acknowledging the mystery of Joshua's origins while building a secure present. Across the city, in a small apartment above a tailor shop, Dream Kali woke to the sound of traffic. The room was sparse, a bed, a table, a chair, and a small television that rarely saw use. But on every wall hung photographs and handmade flyers, yellow with age but lovingly preserved. "Missing child," they declared in bold letters. Joshua Patel. Last seen, May 15th, at Central Park Playground. The photographs showed a smiling baby with dark curls and serious eyes, images Dream Kaylee had enlarged from the few pictures on her phone. Her ex-husband had thrown out all of Joshua's belongings the day after he'd disappeared, an act of cruelty that still burned in her memory. Dream Kaylee's life had narrowed to a single purpose after that terrible night. She had spent weeks at the police station, filed report after report, visited every orphanage and foster home in the city. When money ran out, she took any job she could find, currently working at the tailor shop below her apartment during the day and cleaning offices at night. Every penny beyond basic survival went into the search. Private investigators who took her money but offered little hope. Newspaper advertisements that grew smaller as her resources dwindled. Flyers she still distributed every weekend in different neighborhoods. Rising from bed, Dream Kaylee went through her morning ritual. She opened the small wooden box that contained all she had left of Joshua, a tiny sock she had found under the couch after Vikram had cleared out the nursery, a lock of hair from his first haircut, the receipt for the birthday cake she had made him. "Good morning, my love," she whispered, touching each item gently. "Today might be the day we find each other again." Her phone chimed with a calendar reminder. Appointment with Detective Sharma at 10 a.m. Every month for the past year, she had met with him, hoping for news, usually receiving only sympathetic glances and gentle suggestions that perhaps it was time to accept what couldn't be changed. "Never," she had told him last time. "A mother knows when her child is still out there." Dream Kali dressed quickly, choosing the neat blue dress and cardigan she wore for official meetings. Her appearance had changed over the past year. She was thinner, her once lustrous hair now cut practically short, her eyes carrying a permanent shadow of sleeplessness. But she took care with these meetings, needing to present herself as stable and determined rather than desperate. Today's meeting followed the familiar pattern. Detective Sharma had no new information. The case remained open but inactive without new leads. He tactfully avoided mentioning that resources for year-old missing persons cases were limited, especially when competing with more recent disappearances. "Ms. Patel," he said gently as she prepared to leave, "have you considered the grief counseling services I mentioned? They specialize in helping parents of missing children." Dream Kali shook her head. "Grief is for those who have lost someone forever. Joshua is out there, Detective. I just need to find him." Later that afternoon, Dream Kali stood on a street corner, handing flyers to passing strangers who mostly avoided eye contact. Some took the papers out of politeness, others passed by as if she were invisible. One kindly woman stopped, studied the photograph, and promised to keep an eye out, the same promise hundreds had made over the past year. As dusk fell, Dream Kali made her way to the park where Joshua had disappeared. She came here often, walking the paths, studying the faces of playing children, hoping for a miracle. Tonight, the park was hosting a charity event, colorful lights strung through the trees and music playing near the carousel where Joshua's stroller had been found. Dream Kali stood at the edge of the gathering, watching happy families enjoy the festivities. Her eyes caught on a tall man in an expensive suit, pushing a toddler on a small carousel ride. Something about the child's laugh carried across the distance, causing her heart to stutter painfully. For a moment, just a moment, she allowed herself to imagine a different life, one where her son grew up loved, where she found happiness again, where the constant ache of loss didn't color every waking moment. Then the carousel turned, the child's face came into view, and reality reasserted itself. Not Joshua, not her son, just another happy family, untouched by the kind of loss that had defined her existence for the past year. With shoulders straight despite the weight she carried, Dream Kaylee turned away from the scene and headed toward her second job. Tomorrow would be another day of searching. and the day after that, and the day after that, for as long as it took. Because somewhere in this vast city, her son was growing up without her. And no matter how parallel their lives might run, Dream Kaylee believed with unshakable certainty that one day those parallel lines would finally intersect. Chapter 5. The Birthday Miracle. The carousel spun in lazy circles, children's laughter rising above the cheerful music. Dream Kali walked along the familiar path in Central Park, following the routine she had established over the past 2 years. Every weekend, she visited the place where Joshua had disappeared, still hoping against hope for some clue, some miracle that would lead her to her son. 2 years. Joshua would be 3 now. Would he still have the same serious eyes? Would his hair still curl at the ends? These questions haunted her waking moments and filtered into her dreams. Today's visit was more painful than most. It was May 15th, Joshua's 3rd birthday. Dream Kali carried a small cupcake with a blue candle, a private celebration for a child who wasn't there to blow out the flame. As she neared the carousel, she noticed an unusual amount of activity in the adjacent playground. Colorful balloons tied to the fence swayed in the gentle breeze. A professional photographer arranged a group of children for pictures while caterers set up tables laden with food. Clearly, someone wealthy was hosting a birthday party. Dream Kali averted her eyes, the sight of another child's celebration too painful on this particular day. She headed toward the secluded bench where she usually sat, away from curious glances and the pitying looks her quiet rituals sometimes attracted. "Higher, Daddy, higher!" a child's voice called out excitedly from the swings. Something about the voice, its pitch, its cadence, made Dream Kaylee freeze mid-step. Slowly she turned toward the sound. A tall man in casual but clearly expensive clothes was pushing a little boy on the swings. The child's dark curls bounced with each arc, his laughter bright and infectious. Dream Kali's heart began to pound so hard she could feel it in her fingertips. She took an unconscious step forward, then another, drawn by a force she couldn't explain. The boy turned his head, looking back at his father with a wide smile, and Dream Kaylee caught a glimpse of his profile. The cupcake fell from her suddenly numb fingers, landing forgotten on the path. It couldn't be. And yet, 5 more pushes, then we need to greet our guests, the man was saying, his deep voice carrying across the playground. It's not every day my little man turns 3. 3 years old. Today. The coincidence was too great to ignore. Dream Kali moved closer, her eyes never leaving the child. Each step felt both impossibly difficult and utterly necessary. There was something so familiar in the way he held his head, in the sound of his laugh. If she could just see his face clearly. The man slowed the swing, lifting the boy into his arms with practiced ease. As they turned toward the decorated area, the child's face came into full view. Time stopped. The world around Dream Kaylee faded to nothing. The sounds of the park, the other families, everything disappeared except for the boy's face. Joshua's face, her son's face. The eyes were the same, serious and thoughtful even when he smiled. The curve of his cheek, the shape of his mouth, the small birthmark near his ear that she had kissed countless times during his first year of life. This was no resemblance, no trick of wishful thinking. This was Joshua. "My baby," she whispered, her voice barely audible even to herself. But somehow, impossibly, the child heard. His head turned, eyes scanning the playground until they landed on Dream Kaylee. For a moment, he simply stared, his little forehead creasing in concentration. Dream Kali took another step forward, then another, her legs moving of their own accord. "Joshua," she called softly, her voice breaking on the name she had spoken only in prayer for 2 years. The boy tilted his head, studying her face with a puzzling intensity. The man holding him noticed his distraction and followed his gaze to Dream Kali. his expression shifting from casual interest to wariness as he registered the emotion on her face. "Joshua," Dream Kaylee called again, louder this time, her heart in her throat. What happened next would forever be etched in Dream Kaylee's memory, replayed in her mind during countless sleepless nights to follow. The little boy's face brightened with a smile of recognition, his small arm extending toward her as he called out a single word, "Mama." The man holding Joshua stiffened, his posture instantly protective as he shifted the child to his hip, putting his body slightly between Joshua and Dream Kali. His eyes, piercing blue and now filled with alarm, locked onto her face. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice low but intense. Dream Kali could barely form words through the storm of emotions crashing through her. Joy, disbelief, rage, gratitude, all of it tangled together in her chest, making it hard to breathe, harder still to speak coherently. "That's my son," she finally managed, tears streaming down her face unchecked. "That's Joshua, my baby. He was taken from me 2 years ago." The man's expression hardened, his arm tightening around Joshua, who was now squirming, still reaching toward Dream Kaylee with insistent hands. Around them, party guests had begun to notice the confrontation, curious glances turning their way. "My son's name is Joshua," the man confirmed, his voice carefully controlled. "And I assure you, he wasn't taken from anyone. I found him abandoned in this very park 2 years ago." "Abandoned?" Dream Kali echoed, her voice rising with disbelief. "I never abandoned him. He was lost. I was at the hospital with my dying mother. There was a mistake." The words tumbled out, fragmented by emotion. Joshua was now calling "Mama" repeatedly, straining toward her with increasing urgency. The sound of his voice calling for her, something Dream Kali had imagined in countless dreams, was almost too much to bear. A tall woman in a security uniform approached them, alerted by the commotion. "Is everything all right here, Mr. Richard?" "No," the man, Mr. Richard, replied tersely. "Please escort this woman away from my son. She's causing a disturbance." "Your son?" Dream Kaylee's voice broke on the words. "He's my child." "Look at him. He knows me." "Many children his age call women mama," Mr. Richard countered, though uncertainty had begun to creep into his expression as Joshua continued to reach for Dream Kali with increasing distress. "It's a common phase." The security guard placed a firm hand on Dream Kaylee's shoulder. "Ma'am, I need you to step back." "Please," Dream Kali begged, her eyes locked on Joshua's face. "Just let me hold him. Ask him questions only my son would know. Let me sing his lullaby." "That's enough," Mr. Richard interrupted, though something in his expression had shifted. He studied Dream Kali's face for a long moment, then reached into his pocket and withdrew a business card, holding it out to her with a steady hand. "This is my private number," he said quietly. "If you are truly his mother, come to my house tomorrow morning at 10. Bring his birth certificate, medical records, anything that proves your claim. We'll sort this out properly, away from prying eyes." Dream Kali took the card with trembling fingers, her eyes never leaving Joshua's face. The security guard's hand was still firm on her shoulder, ready to remove her if necessary. "What's your name?" Mr. Richard asked, his voice slightly softer. "Dream Kali Patel," she answered, clutching the card like a lifeline. Something flickered in Mr. Richard's eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or the beginning of belief. "Dream Kali," he repeated. "An unusual name." "My grandmother's choice," she replied automatically, the exchange surreal in its normalcy while her entire world was shifting on its axis. Mr. Richard nodded once, then turned away, carrying a still protesting Joshua toward the birthday celebration. "Come tomorrow," he called over his shoulder. "Not before. We'll talk then." The security guard released Dream Kaylee's shoulder, but remained close by, making it clear that she was to leave now or be forcibly removed. With a last desperate look at Joshua, who was still watching her over Mr. Richard's shoulder, Dream Kaylee backed away. "I'll come back for you," she whispered. A promise meant for Joshua's ears alone. Mama's coming back. Once beyond the park gates, Dream Kaylee collapsed onto a bench, her body shaking with sobs that were equal parts joy and anguish. She had found him. After 2 years of searching, of praying, of refusing to give up when everyone told her she should, she had found her son. But the battle was far from over. The man who held Joshua, this Mr. Richard, clearly believed he had legitimate claim to her child. And Dream Kali, in her reduced circumstances, with no lawyer, no resources, and only a mother's conviction, now faced the daunting challenge of proving what she knew in her heart to be true. She looked down at the business card in her hand. Noah Richard, it read, followed by an address in the city's most exclusive neighborhood. A wealthy man, a powerful man, who had been raising her son for 2 years. Dream Kali lifted her face to the sky, her tears drying in the warm May sunshine. "Thank you," she whispered to whoever might be listening. "Thank you for letting me find him." Tomorrow she would face Noah Richard. Tomorrow she would begin the fight to reclaim her child. But today she allowed herself to simply feel the miracle of having seen her son again, of hearing him call her mama, of knowing with absolute certainty that he was alive and well. For the first time in 2 years, Dream Kali slept without nightmares. Chapter 6. Impossible Proof. The morning after the park encounter, Dream Kali stood before the mirror in her tiny bathroom, trying to compose herself. Dark circles shadowed her eyes from a night spent alternating between euphoric joy and paralyzing anxiety. She had found Joshua, a miracle she had prayed for every day for 2 years, but now faced the daunting task of proving he was hers. She had spent half the night going through her meager possessions, searching for anything that might serve as evidence. The birth certificate, that was the key. Noah Richard had specifically mentioned it, but where was it? After her husband threw her out, Dream Kaylee had taken little with her beyond the clothes on her back. Important documents had been locked in Vikram's home office, access denied even when she begged to retrieve them. "I need to see him," she whispered to her reflection. "Vikram has my proof." The familiar dread of confronting her ex-husband settled in her stomach. They had not spoken since the divorce, his final words still ringing in her ears. "You lost our son through your carelessness. You deserve nothing." Dream Kali dressed carefully in her best clothes, a simple blue dress and cardigan that she kept for interviews and official meetings. Looking presentable might not sway Noah Richard, but it couldn't hurt. She tucked the small wooden box containing Joshua's lock of hair and baby sock into her purse. Not legal proof, perhaps, but evidence of a mother's love. The bus ride to her former neighborhood felt like traveling to another life. The familiar streets bore witness to a different Dream Kaylee. Younger, less scarred, still believing in possibilities rather than mere survival. Her old home appeared unchanged, the manicured lawn and pristine exterior as perfect as Vikram demanded. Dream Kali's heart hammered against her ribs as she walked the path to the front door, memories assaulting her with each step. Joshua's nursery had been on the 2nd floor, facing east to catch the morning sun. She rang the doorbell, steeling herself for Vikram's reaction. The door opened to reveal not her ex-husband, but a young woman Dream Kali didn't recognize, elegantly dressed and visibly pregnant. "May I help you?" the woman asked, her hand protectively cradling her belly. Dream Kali faltered momentarily. I'm looking for Vikram Patel. Does he still live here?" The woman's expression cooled slightly. "He does. May I ask who's calling?" "Dream Kali, his former wife." She forced the words out, watching understanding dawn on the woman's face. "I see. I'm Radhika, Vikram's wife. She stepped back slightly. "Please wait here. I'll see if he's available." The door closed, leaving Dream Kali on the doorstep. Remarried, with a child on the way, Vikram had rebuilt his life while hers had remained frozen in time, fixed on the moment of Joshua's disappearance. Minutes passed before the door opened again. Vikram stood there, unchanged except for the expensive watch on his wrist and the cold contempt in his eyes. "What do you want?" he asked without preamble. Dream Kali straightened her shoulders. "I found Joshua. He's alive, Vikram. He's been with a man named Noah Richard. I saw him yesterday at the park, and he recognized me. He called me Mama." She had expected disbelief, perhaps even anger. What she hadn't anticipated was the flash of fear that crossed Vikram's face before his expression hardened again. "That's impossible," he said flatly. "It's been 2 years. You're delusional." "It's him," Dream Kali insisted. "I would know my son anywhere. I need his birth certificate to prove it. Please, Vikram. Whatever happened between us, this is about Joshua." Vikram's laugh was short and bitter. "After all this time, you still think you deserve to be a mother? You lost him through your own negligence." "It was an accident. My mother was dying." "Save your excuses," he cut her off. "I have a new life now, a wife who understands responsibility. What do you think would happen if Joshua did come back? Do you think you could care for him, living in whatever slum you call home now? Working your menial jobs?" The cruelty was familiar, but the underlying anxiety in his voice was new. Vikram was worried, Dream Kali realized, not about Joshua, but about what his return might mean. "I just need the birth certificate," she repeated. "I can get copies of his medical records from Dr. Sharma, but the birth certificate is here. I know you keep all important documents in your office safe." Vikram crossed his arms. "And what's in it for me? Why should I help you?" The question shouldn't have surprised her, but it did. "He's your son." "A son I grieved and put behind me. Radhika and I are having a child in 3 months. Why would I want to complicate our lives with a ghost from the past?" Dream Kali stared at him, truly seeing for the first time the man she had once pledged her life to. "What do you want, Vikram? Money? I have some savings." "Don't insult me," he scoffed. "Your pitiful savings wouldn't cover a day of my expenses." "Then what?" Vikram studied her for a moment. "A complete severance. Legal documentation relinquishing any claim to financial support from me, past or future. And a guarantee that neither you nor this found child will ever contact me or my family again." The request was both expected and breathtaking in its callousness. "You want me to legally erase you as Joshua's father?" "Precisely." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Think of it as a favor. This Richard person seems to have resources. He'd make a far better father than I ever would." Dream Kali didn't trust herself to speak immediately. The part of her that still remembered being loved, being valued, wanted to scream at the injustice. But the mother in her, the woman who had survived 2 years of pain by focusing solely on finding her child, recognized the bargain for what it was, a price worth paying. "I'll sign whatever you want," she said finally. "Just give me his birth certificate and any other documentation you have." "Come back tomorrow with a notary," Vikram replied. "I'll have my lawyer prepare the papers. Once everything is signed, you'll get your proof." As the door closed in her face, Dream Kali stood motionless, trying to process what had just happened. She had anticipated a battle, but not this cold calculation, this easy dismissal of a son Vikram had never truly wanted. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of activity. Dream Kali visited Dr. Sharma, who remembered Joshua well and agreed to provide copies of his medical records. She withdrew her modest savings, money meant for the ongoing search, now repurposed for this new phase of reclaiming her son. She contacted a budget legal service about witnessing the document signing, explaining as little as possible about the circumstances. The following day, papers signed and birth certificate in hand, Dream Kaylee stood at the gates of Noah Richards' mansion. The elegant stone walls and wrought iron gates spoke of wealth beyond her comprehension. Somewhere inside was Joshua, so close yet still beyond her reach. She pressed the intercom button, announced her name, and waited for the gates to open. Instead, a security guard appeared, studying her through the bars. "Mr. Richard isn't home," he stated flatly. "He asked me to inform you that he's traveling on business and will contact you upon his return." Dream Kaylee's heart sank. "When will that be?" "I'm not at liberty to say." "Please," she insisted, pressing the birth certificate against the gate. "I have proof. I need to see my son." The guard's expression remained impassive. "My instructions are clear, Miss Patel. Mr. Richard will contact you when he returns." For 3 days, Dream Kaylee returned to the mansion, each time receiving the same response. On the 4th day, she arrived to find 2 additional guards posted at the gate, their presence a clear message. She wasn't welcome. But Dream Kaylee had not survived 2 years of searching by giving up easily. If she couldn't enter through the gate, she would find another way. Noah Richard would have to leave his fortress eventually, and when he did, she would be waiting. She established a vigil on the public sidewalk across from the mansion entrance, arriving each morning before dawn and staying until dark. She missed shifts at both her jobs, using the last of her savings to sustain herself during the watch. Rain or shine, she remained, holding a small sign with Joshua's baby picture and the words, "I am his mother." Days passed. Neighbors began to notice. Some brought her coffee or sandwiches, touched by her devotion. Others called the police, who verified she was breaking no laws by occupying public space. One particularly sympathetic officer, after hearing her story, slipped her a business card for a legal aid society specializing in family reunification. "Don't get your hopes up," he warned. "Cases like this, when wealth is involved, they're complicated." A week into her vigil, Dream Kaylee woke in her apartment feeling feverish. The nights spent in the open air, the stress, the inadequate nutrition, all had taken their toll. Still, she dragged herself to her post, unwilling to miss even a day. By afternoon, she could barely stand, swaying slightly as she held her sign. Through blurred vision, she saw a dark sedan pull up to the gates, which swung open immediately. The car was halfway up the drive when it suddenly stopped. From her position, Dream Kaylee could just make out a tall figure emerging from the back seat, speaking to the driver. The figure turned, looking toward the gate where she stood, barely upright. Noah Richard. It had to be him. Dream Kaylee tried to call out, to wave her sign higher, but the world tilted alarmingly around her. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was the figure walking purposefully toward the gate, toward her. She woke to unfamiliar softness beneath her and the distant sound of a child's laughter. For a moment, Dream Kaylee thought she was dreaming, one of the countless dreams where she found Joshua only to wake to emptiness. But the coolness of a cloth on her forehead felt too real, the scent of expensive leather and wood polish too specific for a dream. Opening her eyes, she found herself in an elegantly appointed room, lying on a sofa that probably cost more than everything she owned. Across the room, Noah Richard stood watching her, his expression unreadable. "You collapsed," he said simply. "My doctor says it's exhaustion and a mild case of pneumonia. He's prescribed antibiotics and rest." Dream Kaylee struggled to sit up. "Joshua is upstairs with his nanny," Noah interrupted. "You'll see him when we've talked." "I have proof," Dream Kaylee said, gesturing weakly toward her purse which someone had placed on a nearby table. "His birth certificate, medical records." Noah raised a hand to stop her. "We'll get to that. First, I want to understand something." He moved closer, studying her face. "You've been outside my gate for a week in all weather, making yourself ill. Why?" The question seemed so obvious that Dream Kali almost laughed. "Because he's my son. Because I've spent 2 years searching for him. Because every breath I've taken since he disappeared has been for the sole purpose of finding him again." Noah's expression softened slightly. "Tell me what happened the night he was lost." And so Dream Kali told him about Joshua's birthday, the movie, Alani taking him to the park, the devastating call about her mother, the terrible choice she had made without understanding it would cost her everything. She told him about searching all night, about her husband locking her out, about the police who gradually stopped returning her calls as the case grew cold. When she finished, silence filled the room, broken only by the distant sound of a piano being played somewhere in the house. "I need to see him," Dream Kali said finally. "Please." Noah studied her for a long moment before nodding once. "Yes," he said. "I think you do." As he moved toward the door, Dream Kali felt hope surge through her veins, stronger than the fever, more powerful than her exhaustion. After 2 years of parallel lives, the moment of intersection had finally arrived. Chapter 7. Strangers Under One Roof. Dream. Kaylee's heart hammered against her ribs as she followed Noah Richard up the sweeping staircase. Each step brought her closer to Joshua, her son, her miracle, the child she had never stopped searching for. Though still weak from fever, she forced her legs to carry her forward, one hand gripping the polished banister for support. The mansion was a world apart from anything Dream Kali had known. Soaring ceilings, artwork that looked museum-worthy, surfaces gleaming with the attention of a full staff. In another life, she might have been intimidated by such opulence. Now she barely registered it. Nothing mattered except the child waiting somewhere behind one of these many doors. Noah paused at the top of the stairs, turning to study her with those penetrating blue eyes. "Before we go in, I want to be clear about something." His voice was low, measured. "Joshua has been with me for 2 years. He knows me as his father. Whatever happens next, his well-being comes first." Dream Kali nodded, understanding the warning beneath his words. "I would never do anything to hurt him. Not intentionally, perhaps." Noah's gaze was steady. But good intentions aren't always enough when a child's emotional security is at stake. Before Dream Kali could respond, the sound of running footsteps echoed down the hallway. A moment later, Joshua appeared, chasing a remote-controlled car that zipped ahead of him. He was laughing, his dark curls bouncing with each step, cheeks flushed with excitement. The sight of him, so close, so real, nearly brought Dream Kali to her knees. He had grown so much, transforming from the baby in her memories to this vibrant little boy. But his eyes were the same, those serious, thoughtful eyes that had always seemed to hold wisdom beyond his years. "Joshua," Noah called gently. "Come here for a moment. There's someone I'd like you to meet." The boy looked up, his attention diverted from the toy. His eyes moved from Noah to Dream Kali, widening slightly in recognition. For a heartbreaking moment, he hesitated, suddenly shy in a way he hadn't been at the park. "It's okay," Noah encouraged. "Come say hello." Joshua approached slowly, one small hand reaching back to grasp Noah's pant leg as he studied Dream Kali with open curiosity. "Lady from park," he said softly. Dream Kali knelt down, bringing herself to his eye level despite the protest from her weakened body. "Hello, Joshua," she managed, her voice thick with emotion. "You called me Mama in the park," she continued gently. "Do you remember?" Joshua nodded solemnly, still partially hidden behind Noah's leg. "You sing my special song." Dream Kali's breath caught. "Yes, I do." "Would you like to hear it again?" When Joshua nodded, Dream Kali began to sing softly, the lullaby she had sung to him every night of his first year. "Sleep, my child, beneath the stars, angels watch from near and far. Until the morning sun appears, I'll keep you safe and dry your tears." As the melody filled the hallway, Joshua's expression transformed. The wariness melted away, replaced by a smile so achingly familiar that Dream Kali had to fight back sobs. Slowly, he stepped away from Noah's protective presence, moving toward her with growing confidence. "Mama, sing," he said, reaching out to touch her face with gentle fingers. "Mama back." The simple words, spoken with a child's innocent certainty, broke something open inside Dream Kali. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she nodded. "Yes, my love, Mama's back." Behind them, Noah watched the exchange with an unreadable expression, his posture tense. When Joshua turned to him, saying, "Daddy, my mama," a complex emotion flickered across his features, something between pain and resignation. "Yes, Joshua," he said carefully, "this is your mama. She's been looking for you for a very long time." A slender woman appeared at the end of the hallway, the nanny, Dream Kali presumed. She approached with a professional smile. "It's time for Joshua's luncheon nap, Mr. Richard." Noah nodded. "Thank you, Ms. Chen." "Joshua, go with Ms. Chen now. You can see." He paused, glancing at Dream Kali. "Your mama again afterward." Dream Kali fought the instinct to protest, to refuse to be separated from Joshua again, even for a moment. But she recognized the fragility of the situation, the tenuous permission she had been granted. Instead, she forced a smile. "I'll see you after your nap, okay? I promise I'll be here." Joshua seemed to consider this, his expression serious beyond his years. "Promise, promise?" "Promise, promise," Dream Kali confirmed, making an X over her heart as she had done when he was a baby. To her surprise, Joshua mimicked the gesture, clearly remembering their old ritual. As Ms. Chen led Joshua away, Dream Kali remained kneeling, suddenly unsure her legs would support her if she tried to stand. The emotional weight of the reunion, combined with her physical weakness, left her trembling. Noah extended a hand, helping her to her feet. "Come, we have much to discuss." He led her to a wood-paneled study where a fire burned, despite the mild spring weather outside. Gesturing to one of two leather chairs positioned before the fireplace, he waited for Dream Kali to sit before taking the opposite chair. "I had my legal team verify your documentation while you were unconscious," he said without preamble. "The birth certificate appears authentic. The medical records match. DNA testing would provide absolute confirmation, but the physical resemblance is undeniable." Dream Kali's hands twisted in her lap. "So you believe me?" "I believe you are his biological mother," Noah clarified. "But Joshua's life is here now. This is his home. I am the only father he has known since he was a year old." "What are you saying?" Dream Kali asked, a chill settling over her despite the warmth of the fire. Noah leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "I'm saying that abruptly removing a 3-year-old from the only stable home he remembers would traumatize him. I'm saying that legal battles over custody are ugly, expensive, and ultimately harmful to the child caught in the middle." "I won't abandon my son again," Dream Kali said, her voice steady despite her fear. "I can't." "I'm not asking you to." Noah's reply surprised her. "I'm proposing a compromise. Stay here, in the guest house on the grounds. Spend time with Joshua. Rebuild your relationship with him gradually, under supervision at first. Let him adjust to your presence in his life before we make any permanent decisions." Dream Kali blinked, trying to process the unexpected offer. "You want me to live here?" "It's the most practical solution for Joshua's well-being," Noah replied, his tone businesslike. "My legal right to him is established through 2 years of guardianship and formal adoption proceedings that began 6 months ago. Your biological claim is strong, but complicated by the circumstances of his disappearance. He didn't need to spell out the rest, that he had wealth, influence, and resources she could never match, that a legal battle would drain what little she had while barely denting his fortune. "Why would you offer this?" Dream Kaylee asked, suspicion coloring her voice. "You could fight me, probably win." Something like respect flickered in Noah's eyes. "2 reasons. First, I've watched you stand outside my gate for a week, making yourself ill rather than giving up. That kind of determination deserves consideration." He paused, his expression softening slightly. "Second, and more importantly, I saw Joshua's face when he heard your lullaby. That recognition was real. Whatever my legal rights, I can't deny what I just witnessed." Dream Kali absorbed his words, trying to see beyond them to his true motivation. Was this a trap? A way to monitor her, control her access to Joshua while his lawyers built a case against her? As if reading her thoughts, Noah added, "I'm not your enemy, Ms. Patel. We both want what's best for Joshua. I'm simply suggesting we find that together, rather than through adversarial means. And if I refuse, if I take this to court immediately," Noah's expression hardened slightly, "then I will use every resource at my disposal to maintain custody, and Joshua will be caught in a battle neither of us wants." He paused. "But I don't think you'll refuse. Not if you truly put Joshua first." The implication stung, but Dream Kali couldn't deny the logic. A sudden custody change would confuse Joshua, potentially harm him. And the reality of her situation, unemployed now after missing so many shifts, with no savings and no support system, made immediate sole custody practically impossible. "If I agree to this arrangement," she said carefully, "what are the terms?" "How would it work?" "The guest house is fully furnished with its own entrance and small garden. You would have access to the main house during agreed-upon hours to spend time with Joshua. Ms. Chen or another staff member would supervise initially until Joshua is comfortable. And you recover your health." He continued, outlining what sounded like a carefully considered plan. "You would receive a monthly stipend for personal expenses. In return, I ask for your agreement not to remove Joshua from the property without my knowledge, not to disparage me to him, and to work with the child psychologist I've engaged to help guide this transition." Dream Kaylee's mind raced. The arrangement would place her within Noah's sphere of influence, dependent on his goodwill and resources. Yet it would also give her immediate access to Joshua, allowing her to rebuild their bond without traumatic legal proceedings. "How long?" she asked. "How long would this arrangement last?" "Until we determine a permanent solution that serves Joshua's best interests," Noah replied. "That could be months. It could be longer." Dream Kali closed her eyes briefly, weighing her options. In truth, she had little choice. Fighting Noah Richard in court would be costly and uncertain, with Joshua suffering regardless of the outcome. "I have conditions of my own," she said finally, opening her eyes to meet his gaze. "I want formal documentation of this arrangement, something legally binding. I want Joshua to know I'm his mother, not just a guest or friend. And I want your word that you won't use this time to build a case against me." Noah studied her for a long moment before nodding. "I can agree to those terms. My attorney will draw up the necessary paperwork." He rose, extending his hand to seal their agreement. "Welcome to your new home, Ms. Patel." Dream Kaylee stood on shaky legs, accepting his handshake with as much dignity as she could muster. "My name is Dream Kali," she said quietly. "If we're to share a home, however temporarily, you should use it." A hint of a smile touched Noah's lips. "Dream Kali, then, and I'm Noah." As they stood there, hands still clasped in an uneasy truce, Dream Kali felt the weight of the strange new reality settling around her. She would be living under Noah Richards' roof, dependent on his generosity, navigating a delicate relationship with the man who had raised her son for 2 years. Yet Joshua was upstairs, sleeping peacefully, no longer lost but found. After years of searching, Dream Kaylee had located the missing piece of her heart. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever adjustments this new arrangement would require, she would face them gladly. For the first time in 2 years, she allowed herself to truly hope. Chapter 8. Midnight Confessions. 2 weeks into her new life at the Richard estate, Dream Kaylee was still adjusting to the surreal nature of her circumstances. The guest house was larger than any apartment she had ever lived in, with its own kitchen, living room, bedroom, and small garden. Though tastefully furnished, it felt like a hotel, comfortable but impersonal, a temporary space rather than a home. What mattered, however, was not the luxurious surroundings, but the precious hours each day she spent with Joshua. Their relationship was blooming slowly, carefully, under the watchful eyes of Ms. Chen and occasionally Noah himself. Joshua was warming to her presence, eager for her stories and songs, though he still ran to Noah with skinned knees or nighttime fears. Each evening at 8 o'clock, Dream Kaylee would kiss Joshua goodnight and return to the guest house, leaving Noah to complete their son's bedtime routine. The arrangement stung, but she accepted it as part of their fragile truce, a necessary compromise for Joshua's stability. Tonight, however, something was different. Dream Kaylee had just settled onto the small porch of the guest house, wrapped in a light blanket against the evening chill, when her phone rang. Noah's name flashed on the screen. "Joshua's running a fever," he said without preamble when she answered. 103.2. "The pediatrician is on her way, but he's asking for you." Dream Kaylee was already on her feet, grabbing a cardigan. "I'm coming." She hurried across the manicured lawn to the main house, heart racing with maternal anxiety. The staff had been instructed to admit her at any time, so the security system recognized her approach, doors unlocking automatically. Upstairs, she found Noah in Joshua's bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, his face tight with worry. Joshua lay among rumpled dinosaur print sheets, his cheeks flushed, dark curls damp with sweat. "Mama," he called weakly when he saw her, reaching out hot little hands. Dream Kaylee moved to him immediately, perching on the opposite side of the bed from Noah. "I'm here, my love. Mama's here." She placed a gentle hand on his forehead, alarmed at the heat radiating from his skin. "Have you given him anything for the fever?" Noah nodded. "Children's Tylenol 20 minutes ago. The doctor should be here soon." For the next hour, they worked together in tense collaboration, taking turns applying cool compresses to Joshua's forehead, coaxing him to take small sips of water, monitoring his temperature. When the pediatrician arrived, they stood side by side, listening to her assessment. A severe ear infection, painful but treatable with antibiotics, and rest. By midnight, Joshua had finally fallen into a fitful sleep, his fever down to 101 thanks to medication and their careful ministrations. Dream Kaylee sat in the rocking chair beside his bed, unwilling to leave while he was still ill. "You should get some rest," Noah said quietly from the doorway. "I'll stay with him." Dream Kaylee shook her head. "I can't leave him, not when he's sick." Something like understanding crossed Noah's face. "I'll have Thomas bring coffee." He disappeared briefly, returning with 2 steaming mugs. Handing one to Dream Kaylee, he took the chair opposite hers on the other side of Joshua's bed. They sat in surprisingly comfortable silence, both watching the rise and fall of their son's chest. "He had chicken pox when he was 2, Noah said suddenly, his voice low to avoid waking Joshua. "Spots everywhere. He was miserable for days, wouldn't let anyone but me hold him. I slept in this chair for a week." Dream Kaylee cradled her coffee, absorbing this piece of Joshua's life that she had missed. He had colic for the first 3 months, she offered in return. The only thing that soothed him was when I sang while walking him around the nursery. I learned to function on 2 hours of sleep. A ghost of a smile touched Noah's lips. That explains why he always hums himself to sleep. I never knew where he picked that up. The shared moment of parental connection opened something between them. As the night deepened and Joshua slept on, they exchanged more stories. Noah describing Joshua's first steps, Dream Kali recounting his earliest smiles. "How did you find him?" Dream Kali asked softly, the question she had wondered about for 2 years. "That night in the park, what made you look behind the carousel?" Noah's expression turned reflective. "I almost didn't. I was leaving the park after." He paused, seeming to weigh how much to share. "After signing my divorce papers. My marriage ended that day. Caroline, my ex-wife, wanted children desperately. When we learned I couldn't father a child, He trailed off. "She left," Dream Kali finished for him, recognizing the pain behind his careful words. Noah nodded. "I was sitting on that bench, feeling like my life had lost all purpose. Then I heard crying. So faint at first I thought I'd imagined it. When I found him, sitting alone in that stroller." His eyes focused on Joshua's sleeping form with fierce tenderness. "It was like the universe was offering a second chance I never expected." "You saved him," Dream Kali said quietly. "When I think of what could have happened if you hadn't found him." "Why were you separated from him?" Noah asked, his tone carefully neutral. "The police reports mentioned abandonment, but—" "I never abandoned him," Dream Kali interrupted, her voice tight with old pain. "My friend Alani took him outside during a movie. While they were gone, I got a call that my mother was dying. In my panic, I rushed to the hospital without thinking. By the time I realized..." She swallowed hard. "My mother died that night and Joshua disappeared. I lost everything I loved in a matter of hours." In the dim light of the nightlight, she saw Noah's expression soften. "I'm sorry. About your mother. About everything. Vikram, my ex-husband, blamed me. He locked me out of our home when I couldn't find Joshua that night, said not to come back without him." The memory still burned, sharp and painful. "When no one could find Joshua after months of searching, he divorced me. Said I was an unfit mother who had lost his son through carelessness. That's why you were living in that small apartment, working 2 jobs." Noah's question held no judgment, only growing understanding. Dream Kali nodded. "I used everything I had to keep searching. Private investigators, flyers, newspaper ads. I never stopped looking." Noah was quiet for a long moment, his gaze moving between Joshua and Dream Kali. "I believed I was giving him a better life," he said finally. "I would never have kept him from you if I'd known." "Wouldn't you?" Dream Kali asked softly. "You love him as your own." The question hung between them, honest and challenging. Noah didn't answer immediately, his expression thoughtful. "I don't know," he admitted finally. "I'd like to think I would have done the right thing." The honesty of his response surprised her. Before she could reply, Joshua stirred, whimpering slightly in his sleep. Both adults moved simultaneously to check on him, their hands meeting on his forehead. The fever had broken. In the shared relief that followed, something shifted between them. Not friendship exactly, but a tentative understanding born of their mutual love for the child sleeping peacefully between them. "You should get some rest," Noah said again, his voice gentle. "I'll keep watch for a while." This time, Dream Kali nodded, exhaustion catching up with her. But as she rose to leave, she paused at the door, looking back at Noah sitting vigilant by their son's bedside. "Thank you," she said simply, "for loving him when I couldn't be there." Noah's eyes met hers across the darkened room. "Thank you for never giving up on finding him." In that quiet exchange lay the seed of something neither had anticipated when they'd first faced each other across a crowded park: respect, and perhaps the beginning of understanding. Two broken hearts, slowly healing through their shared love for one extraordinary little boy. Chapter 9. The Memory Box. Summer sunshine streamed through the windows of the main house's library, where Dream Kali sat cross-legged on the floor with Joshua, building an elaborate tower of wooden blocks. After a month at the Richard estate, such moments had become precious routine, time carved out each day for mother and son to reconnect, to rebuild bonds severed by circumstance. "Higher, Mama," Joshua urged, carefully placing another block on their growing structure. His trust in her had blossomed remarkably in recent weeks, childish intuition recognizing what his conscious mind could not fully comprehend: that she was not a stranger, but the woman who had sung him to sleep every night of his first year. "Careful now," Dream Kali cautioned with a smile, steadying the tower as it began to wobble. "Sometimes we need to make sure the foundation is strong before we build higher." From his desk across the room, Noah glanced up from his work, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. These moments when Dream Kali's natural maternal wisdom emerged never failed to reinforce his growing respect for her. The arrangement they had struck, awkward and tentative at first, had gradually settled into something almost comfortable. The initial supervision by staff had given way to a more natural setup, with Dream Kali spending most daylight hours in the main house while Noah worked. In the evenings, they often found themselves sharing dinner together, Joshua chattering happily between them like a bridge connecting their separate worlds. "Look," Joshua cried triumphantly as he added the final block. "It's taller than me." "Indeed it is," Noah agreed, setting aside his laptop to join them on the floor. "That might be your personal best, buddy." Joshua beamed at the praise, looking from Noah to Dream Kali with an expression of pure happiness that squeezed both adults' hearts. In these moments, it was possible to imagine they were simply a family, not two people bound by legal agreements and the shared custody of a child neither was willing to relinquish. "I'm going to draw it," Joshua declared, scrambling for his crayons and paper. "So we remember forever." As he settled at his small table to recreate the tower in art, Dream Kali turned to Noah with a questioning look. "Speaking of remembering, I've been wondering, do you have any baby pictures of Joshua from when you first found him?" Noah nodded, rising to his feet. "I do. More than pictures, actually. Come with me." Curious, Dream Kali followed him from the library to his study, the room where they had first negotiated their uneasy truce. But today there was no tension as Noah moved to a cabinet, withdrawing a leather-bound book nearly the size of a large photo album. "I started this the night I brought him home," he explained, placing the book on his desk. "It seemed important to document everything in case—" He didn't finish the sentence, but Dream Kali understood. In case Joshua's family came looking for him. Opening the book revealed not a photo album, but a journal, its pages filled with Noah's precise handwriting. Each entry was dated, beginning with May 15th, 2 years ago, the very night Joshua had disappeared from the park. "You kept a record," Dream Kali said softly, emotion tightening her throat. Noah nodded. "Every milestone, every new word, every doctor's visit. I thought someday he might want to know about his early years, and if his family was ever found." He glanced at her. "If you were ever found, you would know that he was well cared for." Dream Kali ran her fingers gently over the pages, absorbing this unexpected gift. Here was the record of her son's missing years, his first steps, his favorite foods, his developmental progress carefully noted by the man who had become his father. "May I?" she asked, reaching to turn a page. Noah gestured for her to continue. "It's as much yours as it is mine now." As Dream Kali leafed through the journal, her vision blurred with tears. Noah had been meticulous, including small artifacts along with his notes, a lock of hair from Joshua's first haircut, a tracing of his tiny hand at 18 months, photos capturing everyday moments. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, looking up at Noah with new appreciation. "This is extraordinary. Most parents don't document their children's lives this thoroughly." A shadow crossed Noah's face. Most parents have the luxury of assuming there will be time for memories to form naturally. I never knew how long I would have with him. The quiet admission hung between them, revealing more of Noah's character than perhaps he had intended. This was not the action of a man who had casually adopted a found child, but of someone who treasured each moment while acknowledging its potential impermanence. Dream Kali reached for her purse, which she had set down in the library. "I have something too," she said, returning with the small wooden box she had carried for 2 years. "Not as comprehensive as your journal, but..." She opened the box, revealing its modest contents: the tiny sock, the lock of baby hair, the receipt for Joshua's first birthday cake. These were all I had left of him after Vikram cleared out the nursery. I carried them everywhere, a reminder that he was real, that I hadn't imagined my beautiful boy. Noah studied the small artifacts, understanding their significance. "You never gave up hope." "Never," Dream Kali confirmed, "even when everyone else did." They sat in comfortable silence, the journal and memory box between them, tangible symbols of their separate journeys with Joshua, now intersecting in ways neither had anticipated. The moment was interrupted by the sharp ring of Noah's phone. He glanced at the screen, his expression turning serious. "I need to take this. It's my attorney." Dream Kali nodded, gathering her memory box as Noah answered the call. She was halfway to the door when she heard him say, "He's doing what?" "An emergency custody hearing." She froze, turning back to find Noah's face tight with alarm. "Send me everything immediately," he instructed whoever was on the line, "and arrange for additional security at the house." After a few more terse exchanges, he ended the call, his gaze finding Dream Kali's across the room. "What's happening?" she asked, dread pooling in her stomach. Noah ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of agitation from a man who usually maintained careful control. "Your ex-husband has filed for emergency custody of Joshua. He's claiming that you stole family documents and is challenging both our claims to Joshua." Dream Kali felt the blood drain from her face. "That's impossible. He signed away his rights. He wanted nothing to do with Joshua." "Apparently he's had a change of heart," Noah said grimly. "Or more likely, a change of strategy. My attorney believes he's after a financial settlement. But why now?" After all this time, Noah's expression was grim. "The petition mentions recent media coverage. Apparently, our unusual arrangement has attracted attention. Wealthy businessmen, long-lost mother, and the child they're co-parenting. Someone must have recognized Joshua's name and tipped off Vikram." Dream Kali sank into a chair, her legs suddenly unable to support her. "He'll ruin everything," she whispered. "Not because he wants Joshua, but because he can't stand to see me happy, to see me with my son again." Noah moved closer, his presence unexpectedly reassuring. "Dream Kali, look at me." When she raised her eyes to his, he continued, "I won't let that happen. Whatever our differences, we both want what's best for Joshua. Vikram clearly doesn't. But what can we do? He has resources too, connections." "Not like mine," Noah said, a steel in his voice she had never heard before. "And unlike both of us, he has no actual relationship with Joshua. That counts for something in family court." Dream Kali wasn't convinced. "You don't know Vikram. He's relentless when he wants something." "So are we," Noah countered. "You stood outside my gate for a week in the rain. I fought the social services system for months to keep Joshua. Neither of us gives up easily. The unexpected "we" wasn't lost on Dream Kaylee. For the first time since finding Joshua, she and Noah were unequivocally on the same side, united by a common threat. "What's the first step?" she asked, gathering her composure. "My legal team will respond to the petition immediately," Noah replied, already reaching for his phone again. "In the meantime, we need to protect Joshua from any potential disruption. I'm arranging additional security, and I think it would be best if you moved temporarily into the main house, at least until this threat is addressed." Dream Kali nodded, practical considerations overriding any awkwardness about the new arrangement. "I'll get my things." As she turned to leave, Noah called after her, "Dream Kali." When she looked back, he held up the journal and nodded toward her memory box. "We have something Vikram will never have. Proof that we've both been parents to Joshua in different ways, at different times. That matters." In the library, they found Joshua still absorbed in his drawing, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering around him. Dream Kali knelt beside him, forcing a smile to mask her concern. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," she said, admiring his colorful rendition of the block tower. "Shall we put it somewhere special to keep it safe?" Joshua nodded enthusiastically. "In Daddy's special book," he declared, looking up at Noah, who had followed Dream Kaylee into the room. "He keeps all my pictures." "That's right," Noah agreed, his gaze meeting Dream Kaylee's over Joshua's head. "We keep everything that's important." In that moment of shared understanding, something crystallized between them, not just an alliance against a common adversary, but a deeper recognition that separately and together, they had created a foundation of love for Joshua that even Vikram's machinations couldn't easily destroy. Later that evening, after Joshua was asleep, Dream Kali and Noah sat in his study reviewing documents their attorneys had prepared. The legal terminology was dense, but the strategy was clear. Present a united front, emphasizing both Dream Kali's biological rights and Noah's established guardianship while demonstrating Vikram's previous abandonment of interest in Joshua. "Will it be enough?" Dream Kali asked, setting aside a particularly complex brief. Noah considered the question carefully. "In court, possibly. But I'm concerned about Vikram's next move. Men like him rarely operate within expected parameters." Dream Kali nodded, familiar dread returning. "He always finds a way to get what he wants." "What does he really want, though?" Noah asked, studying her face. "Is it truly Joshua, or is it control, power, money?" "All of the above," Dream Kali replied without hesitation. "But mostly, he wants to win. Whatever game he perceives himself to be playing, losing is intolerable to him." Noah's expression turned thoughtful. "Then perhaps we need to redefine winning in terms he understands." As they bent their heads together over legal documents, formulating strategies late into the night, the foundations of something unexpected were being laid, a partnership born of necessity, but built on growing mutual respect. Whatever came next, they would face it not as awkward co-parents bound by circumstance, but as allies with a common purpose, protecting the child they both loved beyond measure. Chapter 10. Truth and Justice. The county courthouse loomed before them, its limestone facade imposing in the morning light. Dream Kali smoothed her simple navy dress, purchased especially for today with Noah's insistence and funds, and fought to control her trembling hands. Beside her, Noah stood tall in an impeccably tailored suit, his expression betraying none of the anxiety she knew he shared. "Remember what we discussed," he said quietly as they ascended the steps. "Answer honestly but concisely. Don't let Vikram's attorney provoke you." Dream Kali nodded, grateful for the steadying hand Noah placed briefly at the small of her back. The past 2 weeks had transformed their cautious co-parenting arrangement into something approaching genuine partnership. United against Vikram's unexpected custody petition, they had spent countless hours preparing with attorneys, reviewing documents, and most importantly, shielding Joshua from the tension surrounding him. Their strategy had been Noah's idea, surprising Vikram with a unified front. Rather than fighting separate battles for Joshua, they would present themselves as complementary caregivers, each offering something essential to his well-being. Dream Kali's biological connection and maternal devotion, paired with Noah's resources and stable environment, formed a compelling argument for maintaining the status quo. Inside the courtroom, Dream Kali's breath caught at the sight of Vikram seated beside his attorney. He looked exactly as she remembered, handsome, impeccably groomed, radiating confidence and authority. When his eyes met hers, the familiar cold dismissal sent a shiver through her body. "Don't give him power," Noah murmured, correctly interpreting her reaction. "You're not the same woman he knew." The proceedings began with clinical efficiency. Judge Eleanor Martinez, a veteran of family court known for her no-nonsense approach, reviewed the petitions before her. "This is an unusual case," she noted, looking over her glasses at the parties before her. "Mr. Patel, you claim parental rights to a child you previously signed away all legal connection to. Mr. Richard, you have documentation of de facto guardianship, but not completed adoption. And Miss Patel, you allege your child was lost, not abandoned. Let's sort through this methodically." Vikram's attorney presented first, painting a sympathetic picture of a father grieving his missing son, then manipulated by his ex-wife into signing away his rights when she allegedly discovered the child's whereabouts. "My client was told Miss Patel needed the documentation for closure," the attorney claimed. He never imagined she would use it to establish a living arrangement with Mr. Richard and attempt to exclude the child's biological father. When Vikram took the stand, his performance was masterful. He spoke of his devastation at losing Joshua, his anger at Dream Kali transmuting to forgiveness, his shock at discovering his son had been found but kept from him. "I only want what's best for my son," he concluded, his voice breaking perfectly on the last word. "He belongs with his real parents, his father and mother." Dream Kali felt physically ill listening to his lies, but Noah's calm presence beside her kept her grounded. Their attorney, Ms. Dawson, was equally composed as she rose for cross-examination. "Mr. Patel, in the 2 years your son was missing, how many flyers did you distribute with his photo and information?" Vikram blinked. "I left that to the police." "Did you hire any private investigators to locate him?" "No, but did you maintain his nursery in hopes of his return?" A muscle twitched in Vikram's jaw. "It was too painful. I needed to move forward." "By remarrying and starting a new family," Ms. Dawson stated rather than asked. "In fact, Mr. Patel, isn't it true that you removed all traces of Joshua from your home within days of his disappearance?" As the questioning continued, Vikram's carefully constructed facade began to crack. When asked about the specific terms he had demanded in exchange for Joshua's birth certificate, complete severance of all claims and contact, he became defensive, claiming he had been emotionally distraught. "Yet you were clear-headed enough to have legal documents prepared," Ms. Dawson noted, "and to insist on a notary." By the time Noah took the stand, the mood in the courtroom had shifted subtly. He spoke candidly about finding Joshua, his efforts to locate the child's family, and his growing attachment. "I never intended to keep him from his mother," Noah stated firmly. "When Dream Kali found us, I recognized the bond between them immediately. Despite the legal complications, we prioritized Joshua's well-being by creating a stable environment where he could reconnect with his mother without traumatic disruption." The judge seemed particularly interested in Noah's journal documenting Joshua's life. "You kept this detailed record from the beginning?" "Yes, Your Honor. It seemed important to preserve his history, whatever the eventual outcome." And you're now willing to share custody with Ms. Patel? Noah's gaze found Dream Kali's. Joshua needs both of us. She is his mother in every sense that matters. I'm simply fortunate to have become his father. When Dream Kali's turn came, she spoke from her heart, describing the night Joshua disappeared, her relentless search, and the moment of recognition in the park. Her voice broke only once, when describing how Joshua had called her Mama at their reunion. Your Honor, she concluded, I never stopped looking for my son. Not for a single day. And when I found him, I was willing to accept an arrangement that might seem unusual to outsiders because it gave Joshua stability while allowing me back into his life. That decision wasn't about me, it was about what Joshua needed. Vikram's attorney's cross-examination was aggressive, attempting to portray Dream Kali as an unfit mother who had negligently lost her child, then manipulated her ex-husband for documentation. Isn't it true, he demanded, that you prioritized your mother over your child that night? That you left the theater without ensuring your son's safety? Dream Kali took a steadying breath, remembering Noah's advice. I made a terrible mistake in a moment of shock and grief. I have paid for that mistake every day for 2 years, but I never stopped searching, never stopped loving Joshua, never gave up hope of finding him. And now you've arranged a convenient living situation with a wealthy man, the attorney insinuated, one that provides you with financial security you couldn't achieve on your own. Before Dream Kali could respond, Noah's attorney objected sharply. Your Honor, counsel is attempting to impugn Ms. Patel's character with baseless insinuations. Sustained, Judge Martinez agreed. Counsel, restrict your questions to relevant matters. The final testimony came from Dr. Eleanor Phillips, the child psychologist Noah had engaged when Dream Kali first arrived at the estate. She spoke professionally about Joshua's adjustment, the healthy attachments he displayed to both Noah and Dream Kali, and the potential harm of disrupting his current stable environment. In my professional opinion, she concluded, Joshua is thriving in the current arrangement. He shows none of the confusion or divided loyalty one might expect. Rather, he appears to have integrated both adults into his understanding of family in a remarkably healthy way. When asked about introducing Vikram, whom Joshua had no memory of, Dr. Phillips was measured but firm. Any relationship would need to develop gradually, with careful monitoring of Joshua's responses. Abrupt changes to his current family structure would likely be detrimental to his emotional well-being. As final arguments concluded, Judge Martinez announced she would review all evidence before ruling. This case presents unique circumstances that require careful consideration. I'll issue my decision tomorrow morning. Outside the courthouse, Dream Kali leaned against a pillar, emotionally exhausted. He was so convincing, she murmured. What if the judge believes him? She won't, Noah replied with quiet confidence. Vikram made a critical error today. He focused on discrediting you rather than demonstrating any genuine connection to Joshua. Judge Martinez will see through that. Dream Kali wished she shared his certainty. I've never won against Vikram before. He always finds a way. Noah studied her for a moment, then did something entirely unexpected. He reached out and took her hand, his grip warm and reassuring. You're not facing him alone this time. The simple gesture, their first true physical contact, not mediated through Joshua, sent an unfamiliar warmth through Dream Kali's chest. For so long, she had carried her burdens alone, fought her battles single-handedly. The feeling of someone standing firmly beside her was both foreign and oddly comfortable. Thank you, she said simply, for today, for everything you said in there. I only told the truth, Noah replied, still holding her hand as they walked toward the parking lot where his driver waited. Joshua needs both of us. I believe that. The following morning, they returned to the courthouse, the tension between them palpable as they awaited Judge Martinez's ruling. Vikram sat across the aisle, projecting confidence despite the previous day's challenges to his testimony. Judge Martinez entered, her expression unreadable as she took her seat and arranged her notes. After careful consideration of all testimony and evidence presented, I've reached my decision in the matter of custody for Joshua Patel Richard. Dream Kali held her breath, unconsciously reaching for Noah's hand. The petition brought by Vikram Patel is denied, the judge stated firmly. I find his sudden interest in the child after legally severing ties to be opportunistic rather than motivated by genuine parental concern. Furthermore, his documented actions following the child's disappearance demonstrate abandonment of parental responsibility. Relief flooded through Dream Kali, so intense she barely registered the judge's next words until Noah squeezed her hand. Regarding the arrangements between Noah Richard and Dream Kali Patel, I find their cooperative approach to be in the child's best interest. Legal joint custody is hereby granted to both parties, with the current living arrangement to continue as it serves the child's stability and well-being. Judge Martinez looked directly at Vikram. Additionally, based on evidence presented regarding Mr. Patel's prior actions and the coercive nature of his demands, I am issuing a restraining order preventing him from approaching Joshua, Ms. Patel, or the Richard residence without court approval. Vikram's face darkened with fury as the ruling continued, outlining supervised visitation possibilities only after a 6-month period and completion of parenting classes. When he rose abruptly and strode from the courtroom, his attorney scrambling to follow, Dream Kali felt the last weight lift from her shoulders. "It's over," she whispered, tears of relief streaming down her face. "He can't take Joshua from us." Noah's arm came around her shoulders, steady and supportive. "No, he can't. We won." Outside the courthouse, standing in the warm sunshine, Dream Kali looked up at Noah with new clarity. This man, who had once seemed an obstacle to reclaiming her son, had become an unexpected ally, a co-parent, perhaps even a friend. "What happens now?" she asked as they walked toward the car that would take them home to Joshua, who was waiting with Ms. Chen, blissfully unaware of how his future had hung in the balance. Noah considered the question. "Now we continue building a life for Joshua, together." He paused, something indefinable flickering in his eyes. "If that's what you want." Dream Kali nodded, a smile breaking through her tears. "It is, for Joshua." But as Noah held the car door open for her, Dream Kali realized with quiet surprise that perhaps it wasn't only for Joshua anymore. Somewhere during these weeks of shared purpose and mutual respect, Noah Richard had become more than just her son's guardian. He had become someone whose presence in her life mattered for its own sake. That unexpected realization followed her all the way home, where Joshua ran to greet them both with equal joy, unaware that his family had just been legally recognized for what it had already become in practice. Unconventional, unexpected, but undeniably real. Chapter 11. Learning to Trust. The months following the courthouse victory brought a new rhythm to life at the Richard estate. The guest house stood empty now, Dream Kali having permanently moved into a suite of rooms in the main house to be closer to Joshua. The arrangement, initially practical for Joshua's security during the custody battle, had evolved into something that felt surprisingly natural. Autumn arrived, painting the estate grounds in brilliant hues of amber and crimson. On this particular evening, Dream Kali stood at her bedroom window, watching Joshua and Noah rake leaves into enormous piles in the garden below. Joshua's delighted squeals carried upward as Noah lifted him high, then dropped him gently into a mountain of crunchy leaves. The sight brought a smile to Dream Kali's lips. These moments of ordinary joy still felt miraculous after years of emptiness. Her relationship with Noah had evolved too, from wary co-parents to something approaching friendship. They worked together smoothly now, their parenting styles complementing rather than competing with each other. Yet lately, Dream Kaylee had sensed something shifting between them. Lingering glances, conversations that stretched late into the night after Joshua was asleep. A growing awareness that made her simultaneously comfortable and unsettled. A crack of thunder interrupted her thoughts, followed by the patter of raindrops against the window. Below, Noah scooped Joshua into his arms as they raced toward the house, laughing as the gentle shower quickly intensified into a downpour. Minutes later, Joshua burst into her room, his cheeks flushed with excitement, leaves still clinging to his sweater. "Mama, it's raining cats and dogs." Dream Kaylee laughed, helping him remove his muddy shoes. "Indeed it is. You and Daddy got inside just in time." Noah appeared in the doorway, his own hair damp from the sudden rain. "I think we've earned hot chocolate, don't you?" "With marshmallows," Joshua asked hopefully. "Is there any other kind?" Noah replied with mock seriousness. As the storm intensified outside, they gathered in the kitchen where Noah insisted on making hot chocolate the proper way, with real chocolate melted slowly into warm milk. Dream Kaylee watched him work, struck by how different he was from Vikram. Where her ex-husband had considered the kitchen beneath him, Noah moved with easy confidence, involving Joshua in the process by letting him add marshmallows to each mug. "Now," Noah prompted when she trailed off. "Now I can't imagine Joshua's life, or mine, without you in it," she admitted, the words feeling both frightening and freeing. Lightning illuminated the fort briefly, highlighting the intensity in Noah's expression. "Dream Kaylee, I've been wanting to talk to you about that." "About us?" "Us." The word felt foreign on her tongue, laden with possibility. "These past months, watching you with Joshua, getting to know you." Noah paused, choosing his words carefully. "You're remarkable. Your strength, your dedication, your capacity for love despite everything you've endured. I find myself thinking about you, even when you're in the next room." Dream Kaylee's heart quickened, fear and hope battling within her. "Noah, I don't know if I can trust this. Trust myself. The last time I thought I knew what love was." "I'm not Vikram," Noah said simply. "I know that," she replied, "but I'm not the same person either. I've been focused solely on finding Joshua for so long. I don't know how to be anything else." "You already are," Noah insisted quietly. "You're a mother, a survivor, a partner in raising our son. You don't have to be just one thing. Our son." The casual claim sent warmth spreading through Dream Kaylee's chest. "I'm afraid," she confessed. "Not of you, but of what happens if I allow myself to feel everything I've been holding back." Noah nodded, understanding in his eyes. "We don't have to rush. Joshua is and always will be our priority. But I don't want to pretend I don't feel something growing between us." A particularly loud thunderclap shook the house, causing Joshua to stir slightly. Both adults instinctively moved to soothe him, their hands meeting over his small body. Instead of pulling away, Dream Kaylee let her fingers remain beneath Noah's, the contact sending a current of awareness through her. When Joshua settled again, neither moved their hands. "Maybe," Dream Kaylee said softly, "we could see where this leads. Slowly." The smile that spread across Noah's face was worth the risk those words entailed. Carefully, not disturbing Joshua, he leaned across and brushed his lips against her cheek, a gesture so gentle it might have been imagined, yet so deliberate it could not be misunderstood. "Slowly," he agreed. They remained in the fort as the storm gradually subsided, talking in whispers about everything and nothing: Joshua's upcoming preschool interview, a charity event Noah was organizing, Dream Kaylee's idea to resume her education. ordinary topics made extraordinary by the growing understanding between them. When Dream Kali finally drifted to sleep, it was with the novel sensation of feeling completely safe, not just physically, but emotionally. For the first time since losing Joshua, she allowed herself to imagine a future beyond just survival and reunion. A future that somehow, against all odds, included the man sleeping beside her. Their son nestled between them as the storm outside gave way to gentle rainfall and eventually peaceful silence. Chapter 12. Full Circle. May 15th dawned clear and perfect, the kind of spring day that seemed designed by nature specifically for celebration. Dream Kali stood in Joshua's doorway, watching her son sleep peacefully on the morning of his 3rd birthday. 3 years since she had first held him. 3 years of joy, loss, searching, and finally, homecoming. She could hardly believe that a full year had passed since that fateful day in the park when she had spotted Joshua on the playground. The miracle she had prayed for through endless dark nights. Now here she was, not just reunited with her son, but part of a life so much richer than she could have imagined during those years of desperate searching. "Happy birthday, my love," she whispered, approaching Joshua's bed. His eyes fluttered open, instantly alert with excitement. "Is it my birthday now?" "It is," Dream Kali confirmed, sitting beside him. 3 years old today." Joshua sat up, bouncing slightly on the mattress. "Daddy said we're having a special adventure for my birthday, a surprise." "Did he now?" Dream Kali raised an eyebrow, though she knew exactly what Noah had planned. They had discussed it for weeks, Noah insisting that this birthday needed to be particularly meaningful, a celebration not just of Joshua's life, but of their journey together. "Let's get you dressed and find out what this surprise might be," she suggested, helping Joshua select special clothes for the day, new jeans and the dinosaur shirt Noah had bought him last week. Downstairs, they found Noah in the kitchen, preparing breakfast with his usual efficiency. He turned at their entrance, his face lighting up at the sight of them. "There's the birthday boy," he announced, lifting Joshua high and spinning him around. 3 years old, practically a grown man. Joshua giggled, delighted by the attention. "Where's my surprise?" "Surprise? Who said anything about a surprise?" Noah teased, winking at Dream Kali over Joshua's head. "You did. You promised. Well, then I suppose we'd better have breakfast first to build up our strength. Birthday adventures require energy." As they ate, Dream Kali couldn't help but marvel at how natural this felt. The 3 of them sharing breakfast, laughing together, planning their day. In the months since the custody battle, her relationship with Noah had deepened gradually, each step forward taken with careful consideration of Joshua's needs and their own wounded hearts. Their first kiss, a real kiss, not the gentle cheek brush in the Thunder Fort, had happened on a winter evening after Joshua was asleep, standing in the softly lit kitchen where they'd lingered over late-night tea. There had been no grand declaration, simply a moment when the space between them became unbearable, and Noah had closed it with gentle determination. Since then, they had grown closer by degrees. Noah never pushed, seeming to understand Dream Kali's lingering fears about trusting her heart to anyone again. For her part, Dream Kali had slowly let down walls built during years of emotional survival, allowing herself to acknowledge what had been growing between them since those first nights of watching over Joshua's fever together. "Earth to Dream Kali," Noah's voice broke into her thoughts. "Where did you go just now?" She smiled, returning to the present. "Just thinking about how much can change in a year." Noah's eyes held hers for a moment, something warm and knowing in his gaze. "Indeed it can." He turned to Joshua. "Ready for your birthday adventure?" "Yes," Joshua exclaimed, nearly bouncing out of his chair. An hour later, they were in Noah's car, Joshua securely buckled in the back as they drove through the city. Dream Kali knew their destination, but Joshua was completely unaware, chattering happily about turning 3 and the party planned for later with his friends from playgroup. When they pulled up to the neighborhood park, the same park where their stories had intersected, Joshua looked out the window with confusion. "We're having my adventure here. This is a very special place," Noah explained, helping him from the car. "More special than you might realize." Dream Kali took Joshua's other hand as they walked into the park, heading toward the carousel that had been the site of so much heartache and, ultimately, hope. The old playground equipment had been replaced over the winter, a donation from Noah's foundation, making it virtually unrecognizable to casual observers. But Dream Kali and Noah knew exactly where they had been standing when they first faced each other over their son. 3 years ago today, Noah began, kneeling to Joshua's level, something amazing happened in this park. "What happened?" Joshua asked, eyes wide with curiosity. Noah glanced at Dream Kali, seeking permission to continue. She nodded, knowing it was time Joshua understood at least the simplest version of his story. "You came into my life," Noah told him. "I was very sad and lonely, and I found you right here, near this carousel. You were just a tiny baby then." Joshua's forehead wrinkled as he tried to process this. "Where was Mama?" Dream Kali knelt beside Noah, taking Joshua's small hands in hers. "I was looking for you, my love. We got separated, and I couldn't find you. I looked and looked for a very long time." "Like hide and seek," Joshua suggested, trying to make sense of this revelation. "A bit like that," Noah agreed. "But neither Mama nor I knew we were playing. She was looking for you, and I was taking care of you, and neither of us knew about the other." "But then Mama found us," Joshua said, putting the pieces together with surprising clarity. "She did," Noah confirmed. "Right here in this park 1 year ago today, on your 2nd birthday." Joshua's eyes widened. "Today is my finding day too?" Dream Kali nodded, blinking back tears. "Yes, sweetheart. Today we celebrate not just your birth, but finding each other again, our family becoming complete." Noah stood, lifting Joshua into his arms. "That's why I wanted to bring you here today, to show you where our family began." They walked through the park, Noah and Dream Kali taking turns pointing out significant spots, where Noah had first found Joshua, where Dream Kali had stood when she recognized her son a year later. They approached a secluded area where a new bench had been installed, bearing a small brass plaque that read, "Where lost hearts find their way home." "I had this placed here last week," Noah explained to Dream Kali's questioning look, a reminder of what happened in this park. As Joshua ran ahead to examine a butterfly that had landed nearby, Noah turned to Dream Kali. "There's another reason I wanted to come here today." Something in his tone made Dream Kali's pulse quicken. "Oh?" Noah took her hands in his expression suddenly serious. "Dream Kali, when I found Joshua in this park, I thought I was saving him. I didn't realize he was actually saving me, giving me purpose when I'd lost all direction, offering love when I believed it was something I'd never experience again." He glanced toward Joshua, who was still distracted by the butterfly. "And then, just when I thought I understood what love was through raising him, you appeared and showed me dimensions of love I never knew existed. Your determination, your selflessness, your capacity to begin again after unimaginable loss." Dream Kali felt tears welling in her eyes as Noah continued. "This past year with you has taught me more about love than I learned in all the years before. Watching you with Joshua, building a life with you, falling in love with you day by day. It's been the greatest gift of my life." With that, Noah reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Dream Kali's breath caught as he dropped to one knee on the spot where they had first confronted each other over their son. Dream Kali Patel, he said, his voice steady despite the emotion evident in his eyes. Would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife? Of making official what I think we've both known for some time now, that we're meant to be a family, not just for Joshua's sake, but for our own. He opened the box to reveal a ring unlike any dream Kaylee had seen. Not a traditional diamond solitaire, but an intricate band holding 3 stones, a larger diamond flanked by 2 smaller sapphires. The 3 of us, Noah explained softly, past, present, and future, all connected. Dream Kali couldn't speak through her tears, overwhelmed by the perfect symmetry of the moment, a proposal in the very place where their journey had both begun and intersected on the day that marked both Joshua's birth and their reunion. Joshua, noticing the significant moment unfolding, ran back to them. "Why are you kneeling, Daddy? Why is Mama crying?" Noah smiled at their son. "I've just asked your mama if she would marry me, if she would be my wife and we could all be a family forever." Joshua's face lit up with excitement. "Say yes, Mama," he urged, bouncing on his toes. "Say yes." Dream Kali laughed through her tears, looking from Joshua to Noah, the 2 great loves of her life, both watching her with identical expressions of hope. In that moment, all the fear and doubt that had lingered in the corners of her heart seemed to dissolve, replaced by absolute certainty. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, Noah. Yes, I will marry you." Noah slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood and pulled her into his arms. Their kiss was gentle but filled with promise, broken only when Joshua threw his arms around their legs, demanding to be included in the embrace. Noah lifted their son, creating a 3-way hug that felt like the most perfect circle Dream Kali had ever known. From the depths of loss to the heights of joy, their journey had indeed come full circle in this park where fate had first intertwined their lives. Later that day, as friends gathered for Joshua's birthday celebration, Dream Kaylee found a moment alone with Noah on the terrace. The afternoon sun caught her ring, sending prisms of light dancing across the stone balustrade. "Are you happy?" Noah asked softly, his arm around her waist. Dream Kaylee leaned into his embrace, watching Joshua play with his friends on the lawn below. "More than I ever thought possible," she admitted. "For so long, finding Joshua was my only goal. I never allowed myself to imagine anything beyond that moment. And now," she turned in his arms, meeting his gaze directly. "Now I understand that finding Joshua was just the beginning, that life had more in store for both of us than I could have dreamed." Noah brushed a strand of hair from her face with tender fingers. "When I found Joshua that night, I thought it was coincidence, being in the right place at the right time. Now I'm not so sure." "What do you mean?" "I think perhaps we were meant to find each other, all 3 of us. That sometimes the greatest gifts come from our deepest losses." As Dream Kali looked up at the man who would soon be her husband, she knew he was right. The path that had led them here had been marked by pain and separation, but it had ultimately brought them to a love deeper and more profound than anything she had known was possible. In the garden below, Joshua looked up and waved excitedly, calling for them to join him. Hand in hand, they went to their son, stepping together into the future that awaited them. A future built on second chances, unexpected joy, and the kind of love that finds its way home, no matter how difficult the journey.